Xenoverse 2 has even more DLC in the Future Saga, adding 2 playable characters and a strange visual novel-esque mode so you can become friends with Broly and Cheelai? Let's dive right into it. Here is my review of Future Saga Chapter 3 for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 on Nintendo Switch. Let's begin with the free update, which didn't add much. The main change was giving the Daima versions of Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta their English dub voices, repeating what they did with Daima's Kid Goku, having him release only with Nozawa's voice and then being replaced by Stephanie when the next DLC pack hit. Now with the paid DLC, we actually got a good bit of content. Future Saga Chapter 3 adds 2 playable characters, a damaged Canton City stage, story missions, and a special visual novel-like mode starring Cheelai and Broly from the Super Broly movie, taking place after the main story missions. The story itself has Fu being back with his experiments with time crystals, accidentally recruiting Frieza from the time period of the Super Broly movie. The self-proclaimed Emperor wanting to use the time crystals to ascend to a new level of power, setting his sights far beyond just the Frieza Force. The story itself does some pretty neat things and gives you 5 missions to do instead of the 3 from the last chapter. The black on Frieza's body from the crystals was also a fun little nod to Black Frieza from the Dragon Ball Super manga. The part I enjoyed the most was that you get to use Canton City itself as a battle stage. You don't get to free roam around that much of it, but it was really cool to see everything in the background. And unfortunately, the only version of it you get as an actual stage outside of the story missions is the damaged version, not the one you're seeing right now. Then you get to the sequel scenario, patrolling with Cheelai and Broly. This is the weird visual novel mode advertised in the trailers. You get over a dozen missions here where you go around the city with the duo, helping citizens, running into wacky scenarios, and fighting enemies. The dialogue isn't all spoken, just emoted with words and expressions, and feels very much like a VN, with dialogue choices and options that raise and lower their affinity as if you were playing a dating sim. It's very cute, especially with the wacky scenarios like Cheelai and Bulma going clothing shopping, or the pair getting roped into a Dragon Ball hunt with Goku. It's also the only way you get Broly's new skills for custom characters, in mentor-like missions that we haven't seen since the main game of Xenoverse 2. It does get a bit repetitive towards the end as you need to complete missions and give them specific items like capsules, ingredients, or food to raise their gauge enough to unlock each main quest. For players like myself that have hundreds of hours and nearly a dozen playthroughs, you'll likely have all of the items they need. But even then, it does get tedious to always have to do the items on repeat after beating all missions to unlock the next main quest. But let's move on to the characters. Despite Cheelai having a full 3D render in cutscenes, only Broly and Frieza's Ultra supervillain form were added as playables. Broly is the standout here, being his base and Super Saiyan forms from the Super Broly movie still in his armor. Not only is this smaller than the other version, but it's clear that it's a brand new model to the game and not just a reskin. This is the form I personally really wanted back in 2018 when the movie came out. The big buff reference to Z Broly was cool, but he just looks so good being Super Saiyan in the armor. And they added a lot of flair to an unnecessarily detailed and cinematic transformation he goes into when going into Super Saiyan. The downside is they messed up his voice during battle. Cutscene Broly sounds fine, but PQ and Battle Broly has a deep booming pitch that sounds really off. The development team has recognized this and said they're going to fix it, but considering they still haven't fixed Mastered UI Goku's reverb when talking to Beast Gohan, or Super Gogeta talking too fast in the character select screen, who knows when that fix will actually happen. As a character, Broly is a long combo beatdown fighter. His basic combos are long, having a mix of strike and key attacks, even if you're just mashing the Y button over and over. Most of his finishers, heavies, and even his grab involve getting the opponent straight onto the ground so you can end it in a skill or ultimate. And this ties into his new skills. The first skill is an evasive called Saiyan Blaster. It's basically a larger green version of Celestial Wave from UI Omen Goku, though it also lets you instantly go into your Awoken skill, helping to keep opponents from interrupting it. His normal super skill is Gigantic Cross. This launches in a slow arc and explodes with green energy. Because it's so slow, it is tied to Broly's to the ground playstyle, It's very difficult to use a horizontal launch and connect with Gigantic Cross, but if you throw them straight down to the ground like almost all of Broly's finishers do, it's very easy and consistent. Finally is his ultimate, Gigantic Nova. It's a big energy ball where you take a few seconds to make and throw it at a decently high speed. It's faster than skills like Super Spirit Bomb and does comparable damage, coming in at around 15,000 on my male Saiyan versus 18,000 on Super Spirit Bomb. But it doesn't track if they move, and it must be a horizontal throw towards the ground. Most of Broly's drops are straight down, so you need a specific combo to drop them at a decent angle to be able to hit with it without doing a stamina break. Next is Ultra Supervillain Golden Frieza. His combos are similar to Broly's in that they are long and combine strike and ki attacks together, but his focus is stunning and keeping the opponent busy with the new skills he has to get them prepped for the new ultimate. Frieza has two new skills here. Emperor's Cannon summons orbs that slowly fire at enemies while you do other things, and Dark Inscription summons little portals near an enemy to fire blasts at them. You can do this several times for more ki, doing damage similar to bending Kamehameha, but taking up much more energy. The point of these skills is to stun enemies so you can hit them with his new ultimate, Chaotic Time-Space Impact. And considering the name, it is effectively just a dark version of Time-Space Impact from Klonoa. It does the same thing, starting with a lock-on to trap the opponent in place, but Frieza's version uses a large beam as a follow-up instead of a ball. It costs an absurd 600 ki to use, and only does around 12,000 damage on my male Saiyan. It's one of those skills that is super costly but looks really cool. Next are the parallel quests, and that's where things are a little weird. Since Broly's skills are all obtained from his little Time Patrol campaign with Cheelai, you only get Frieza's new skills from the new quests. You can also unlock some cosmetics based on Frieza, Cheelai, and the odd Dragon Ball balloon accessory, giving you 7 balloons that sort of hover behind your character's back a bit. It's in the same sort of style you'd expect a back bling to work in games like Fortnite Battle Royale. The quest I found to be entertaining as always, from Frieza having to beg and practically lick Shenron's boots to try and get a wish granted, to fighting several versions of Goku and Vegeta, with Klonoa just casually mentioning Dragon Ball Daima as an alternate timeline from the others she's seen, a reference to the fan theory that Daima is yet another alternate continuity of Dragon Ball Z, apart from both GT and Super, despite Daima showing all of Super's Supreme Kai's in a flashback. Overall, I think this DLC pack isn't bad. It has a lot more campaign content in it than normal thanks to that Cheelai and Broly Time Patrol mode. Though I do hope we eventually get back to 3 characters per pack again. With Frieza being an Ultra Supervillain reskin, Broly was the only sort of new character we had. It felt like a big tease to see Cheelai fully rendered in the game and not playable, along with us once again having to fight against semi-perfect Cell in their campaign and still not having him as a playable character. And before we conclude, let's touch on presentation for just a moment. This is the first DLC for Xenoverse 2 since the Nintendo Switch 2 came out, and the experience is a bit more stable on the new platform. Parallel quests are still 30 FPS and 1v1s at 60 FPS, but multi-lobbies no longer drop frames when you're wandering around, and you have a little bit less lag and wait time during the loading sequences for battles. In conclusion, Xenoverse 2 gets DLC 29 years into its existence, bringing more story content and a wacky visual novel mode with Broly and Cheelai. Now, the downside, Broly was the only truly new character added, his voice is messed up in battles, and the new VN mode does get a little repetitive with the item deliveries. But if you wanted Super Saiyan Broly in his armor from the movie, it looks fantastic and there's plenty for you to do here. Reviews to Go rates future Saga Chapter 3 for Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 on Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. If you're looking for more Xenoverse 2 content, check out my review of the Dragon Ball Daima pack. And if you like the content, subscribe to the channel.